the consent agenda to hide things. And we, as you look in our brief,
okay, we come back to the question: Can you use a consent agenda?
if in fact you're not using it to hide things, yes, sir.
So again, if they had furnished copies of the minutes of the canvassing board before the city commission met that day, you wouldn't have a problem.
Your Honor, if you give us that hypothetical, we probably never would have had this case. That's correct. But that doesn't resolve this case. You know, if you didn't hurt me in the automobile crash, I never would have sued you. So the fact that in fact there's been no injury, there's been no action, I think that's correct. I agree with that.
So if the city's getting ready to say let a refuse collector or solid waste contractor to waste management for $1 million for the next year, and they provide to the council persons or commission persons information about the bids and all that sort of stuff that can then become public records, and they come to the meeting the next week, you wouldn't have a problem with an item like that, despite the fact that it involves a lot of money. You wouldn't have a problem with that being taken up on a consent agenda, assuming that all the underlying documents have been made readily available.
That's right, Your Honor. If we're not acting in a way to hide what's going on, that's the key to this case.
So in fact,
acting in a way to hide what's going on.
right. So in fact, all of this unlikely argument that there is some right of any citizen to take up the commission's time with their remarks on any issue really is off the mark, because that's not your complaint. Your complaint again is they didn't furnish a copy of the minutes. I mean, what good would it have been done to have input if nobody knew what the minutes said? How does that even pertain?
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question, Your Honor. Our clients, and nobody there knew what was in the minutes. The minutes were not present at the meeting.
Right, so you're complaining about their lack of an opportunity to speak on something they knew nothing about.
The fact that what we're complaining about is that the Sunshine Law says that public decisions shall be made in a, quote, public meeting open to the public, unquote. And our argument is...
And you're saying even if noticed beforehand, even if in a public building, it's not a public meeting, if the documents being voted on are kept secret from the public.
Let me make it real easy, Your Honor. Let's suppose that we've got the public meeting and all the documents have been distributed and everybody has a copy, and then the commission undertakes and does conduct all of the meeting in Chinese. I don't know how they know Chinese, but let's assume they do. And absolutely nobody in the audience knows what's going on, what's been said in that particular case. That would not be a meeting open to the public, because we have hidden the content of what we're doing from the public.
I think what Judge Benton may be suggesting, and sort of, I'm sure how we're going to ultimately decide this case, but it seems like a more direct line in this case, perhaps, to say we're entitled to these documents. In particular, we're entitled to the minutes of the canvassing board, and we're entitled to those within a reasonable time, i.e. sometime between the time before that and the time the commission meets. And the failure to give us those documents sort of obliterates the open meeting insofar as it pertains to approval of the canvassing board.
Correct.
But we don't, if we went that route, I'm not suggesting we would, but if we went that route, we wouldn't, appellate courts sort of have this rule, as you well know, that we don't decide issues that we don't have to decide. We would not have to reach your argument concerning the general legality or illegality of a consent agenda. That's
Your Honor, we have never argued that consent agendas were per se illegal. Perhaps the city has said we did. We have never, ever argued that. We have said this particular action violated the open meetings law because of the requirement of openness. Your Honor, we've got several other matters, and I'm going to have to cut them real short here. The next one has to do with the failure to provide the canvassing board meetings upon request, saying to my clients, we won't give them to you until you, in fact, the city commission has a fact and proof. That is undisputed. And the court says, well, you can't win here because you had the thing before you filed a lawsuit. Your Honor, we didn't file this lawsuit to get the record. We attached it to the complaint We filed this lawsuit for a declaratory action and an injunction saying you cannot conduct business this way. The public records law and the Constitution require you to produce that record, and your position that you're taking is a city's position, that we don't have to give them to you until they have been approved by the city commission, needs to be addressed by this court, and we need to have a rule on that the City of Alachua will know what the law is, as well as every other city in our state. The other matter having to do with the fact that the city said to my clients, we will not meet with you, we will not let any person meet with you to inspect public records. The judge said, as you know, the judge said the law does not require the city to meet with anybody. All it requires is that the city give a response to a request if it's made. How do you make a request without a meeting? I don't know. That is absolutely in error. The Constitution says every person has a right to inspect. The statute says the city shall allow.
But the city can't say we want a request in writing.
And the statute says, Your Honor, the city has a duty to permit inspection and to provide a custodian. Now, how can the city provide a custodian without meeting? The city has no authority, Your Honor, to say that you must give the request in writing. Maybe that'll be helpful, but the law doesn't require that. Your Honor, I see my time is up, and we reserve, of course, the last item as well. Thank you.